Hello, my name is Josh Jones. I am a percussionist. Essentially, I'm just a drummer. That's what I like to call myself because I don't like percussionists, kind of like little meh. But um, so this is going to be kind of interesting because I've never done something like this before for this specific topic. But I'm going to be showing you the process, or at least as much of the process as I can, of preparing for an audition. At this particular time, I've already applied and I've already been accepted, or at least my resume's been accepted for the audition. I'm just waiting for my audition time, and it's for the Kansas City Symphony. The audition is March 8th through 10th, and today's date is Monday, January 20th. Um, Sometimes this normally doesn't happen where you have so much time in between before the audition, so I like to take advantage of that when I can and prepare physically, mentally, musically as well. Um, so, yeah, we'll see how much of the process I can show you, and I'm going to try to keep it to like 2 minute clips if I can. So, enjoy whatever ride this becomes. Okay, like I said, I've already applied for the position, and the way we do this is normally we usually get a union paper that'll tell us what auditions are going to be happening during that month. So Kansas had an opening, so we click on Kansas City Symphony. Hopefully it'll go. Okay, so we go to the website, and obviously I don't play violin, so it's not the concertmaster. There it is, principal percussion. The deadline was actually today, so that's kind of cool. I sent mine about a month ago, I think. And here's the preliminary round dates, 8th through the 10th, and the final round is going to be on the 10th. So we go here for detailed information. There's the advertisement, there's the rounds. So we have our repertoire list, and here's the non-rental excerpts. They usually send the rental excerpts by email to people they accept in the audition. So we go here, and it gives us, hopefully, the list. So we have what I'm supposed to play, solos, and then excerpts from orchestra pieces for xylophone, glockenspiel, vibraphone, snare drum, bass drum, tambourine, cymbals, and sight reading may be asked. And as you see, Kansas will send you the rental music by email. They also give you some notes to change. So, like in American in Paris, rehearsal 4 is mezzo forte, not forte, just a little more detail. I haven't seen this as often. Normally, some of the excerpts, you know where the mistakes are or you know what to do, but it's really nice of them to do that for us. Cool. So, there's additional information. Obviously, the deadline was today, so if you don't send your resume, you can't get in. Sometimes you can appeal, but it's not a good look. And then you're supposed to send a refundable check by that date. That's very standard. I haven't rarely seen that not be asked. And one of the interesting things with this one, they give you the contract essentially. So that's the minimum salary, which I haven't seen in a while. And there's a guarantee for electronic media, so that's what you should be getting baseline. Oops. And then there's more about the symphony, more benefits for the orchestra members, how do you apply, and obviously you send your resume and hope for the best. So yeah, it's very detailed information, and I really appreciated that from them. Yeah. So what I did today was I started my physical workouts more. Um, so I did cardio, which I haven't done in a while because of I have a bad leg from a surgery that I had last year. But turns out I can do more cardio now because my leg isn't as tired as often, so I can do that. I'm going to be doing a lot of yoga, stretches, massages, and things like that, and a lot of meditating, specifically for body awareness and for focus. So I'm probably going to start that at some point this week. Yeah, so that's the physical things, and I'm going to show you some of the things I do for the music. Okay, so I haven't done this in a while, but what I do is I obviously have the list here. So what I do, I put it in grid paper to make sure I stay on track to see like how many times I played this well in a day. If I've had a good day, I'll just put a check mark with a good day, and I don't do like I don't mark every single time I play it. I just what do you call it? I just mark when I do it in a day. So if I do it one day, I make sure I mark it. If I do it another day, and I just kind of keep track. The more markings I see, then the more I feel more comfortable. And I only put a mark if it was a good, productive day, not if I was still learning. If I'm still learning the piece, then I haven't actually played it all. So you see there's more, and there's another. Actually, I wonder if I still have this. Let me check and see. Okay, luckily I haven't thrown this away. So I was preparing for Philadelphia, and as you see, Kansas is only one, two-ish, and not even. So basically like two pages of excerpts. Philadelphia's list was huge. It was 1, 2, 3. It's like 3 full pages of excerpts, and in between these there's multiple spots in each. In the Kansas City one, I marked out the multiple spots, so you see like exotic birds number 1, exotic birds number 2, so those are 2 spots, but some of these have like 2 or 3 spots in them. So yeah, it just shows you that like auditions are super different, and they were both this was for principal, so this is a short list compared to assistant principal, which was crazy long. So yeah. Okay, so the next thing I do, which I'm glad I have this feature on my phone, the next thing I have to do is make a playlist for the excerpts so that I can listen to and practice with it. So I've already done this, but I'll just show you what I normally would do. So I'll search for, let's say I'm looking for Porgy and Bess. So I search Porgy and Bess, and here are all the tracks of Porgy and Bess. And I usually pick the first one because I love Mazel. As you can see, the top one says Mazel. Then I'll click on here, then add to a playlist, and I've already created the Kansas City one. So yeah, I'm not going to add it again because I don't want to duplicate it. But after that's finished, then I have, so it's about 52 minutes of music minus the solos. And there you have it. That's the list for Kansas City. So one of the other things I do is I really try to watch what I eat and other things. So I'm drinking a ton of water. The plan is to just stick to water and tea. I'm also doing Whole30 right now, so that's pretty, basically no sugar, no fried foods, a lot of other things. So I'm going to probably try to continue that through March 10th until the finals are over. Hopefully I'll be able to stick with it. I'm pretty disciplined with that kind of stuff when it really matters. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Other things some people do, they like really map out their calendar to see, or to make sure they get to everything. Luckily with a list like this, I know all of the pieces, so it'll be easy to work them up to a performance level. The one thing I don't want to do is peak too early because I'll get really bored at the end. So there will probably be a lot of rest days for me, considering the length of the list. And those days will probably be spent with just working on technique, which is what I usually do anyway. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. Today I'm going to start with probably snare drum technique and go through the marimba solos. And yeah, I won't make my book yet because I still have the Philadelphia book, so I'll probably be reading from that book until probably mid-February, maybe a little earlier than that, and then I'll make the Kansas City book and I'll go through that process too. Okay, so eventually, when you do enough of these, there's a couple pieces, hopefully, that you're excited to play again. One of which is, for me, Shostakovich's Lady Macbeth. This thing is awesome. Like, hopefully this is too loud. So this is the xylophone part, and it's so much fun to play, especially at the end, which we're not playing for. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, it's just so fun. Let's see. I wonder. So the guy just found a dead body. And he's like about to call the police, and then the jam starts. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, some of the issues people will deal with when deciding to take an audition, um, specifically with the resumes, depending on your career so far, getting into some auditions may be difficult. There's a thing, what we call the cattle call audition, where the symphony will hear anyone who applies. Other people screen resumes, so they'll be looking for specific things. If you played with orchestras before, if you already have an orchestral job, or something to that level, they'll be looking for those things, and occasionally you won't get through. I know when I first started, the first couple auditions I didn't get through because I was still in college. But then I started moving. I switched my resume so that it would show specific people I studied with so that they would be more interested to hear me. So that's one thing, getting through the resume round. The next thing, sometimes they ask for a tape, just in case they're not sure if you would be appropriate for the audition. So they give you a set of excerpts to play, to record, and then send to them. And then based on your tape round, they'll introduce or invite you, I mean. So yeah, that's a couple things. Um, yeah. And then you need stuff to practice on. So luckily, I do have a position. I'm principal percussionist of the Calgary Philharmonic, and I have this space to practice in. But as you see, it's not just a percussion space, it's also a storage room. So occasionally there will be a bunch of stuff here. um, and yeah, so I'll have to, that's the least of my problems is just moving things around. Other people don't have this. They'll either be in school, so they'll have the school property to practice on, but others are out of school and need a space to play. So this can be a challenge for some people, especially for bigger instruments like xylophone, marimba, bass drum, timpani, especially if you're a timpanist, you really need to find a space that will allow you to play on their instruments or obtain your own. So that's one of the difficulties we have as percussionists, specifically just having the instruments to play on and practice on. The next thing is getting to the audition. So it's in Kansas, and you have to get there. Luckily, we don't have to bring the big instruments. We're just bringing snare drum, tambourine, cymbals occasionally. I don't bring cymbals anymore, which for some reason. But yeah, others for timpani auditions, some people bring their own timpani, so they drive them out in a truck, which is like crazy, you know. But yeah, you need to get there, so you need to buy the flight, do the hotel, all that stuff. Depending on dates, like for this audition for the Calgary Phil, we had the preliminary rounds and the final round, but then they wanted to have us back in September, so there was like a 3-month gap. So they actually flew us out for the final round, so we didn't have to pay for the final round. Yeah, so yeah, you have to pay to get there, to stay there, and hopefully everything works out. The other thing is making sure you have time, so scheduling work or scheduling things around work to make sure you can make it and not, lose out on too much money or any money at all, hopefully. Luckily for this audition, I'm already off for those 3 days, so we'll see what happens. So that's the marimba. Um, And those are the mallets. So what I'm going to do now is work on the solos for marimba. What I always do first is do technique. So I'm going to start with just some basic exercises, slow practice, and when I get to the solos, I'm just going to play through them extremely slowly so that I can really navigate my body, make sure I'm moving efficiently, and I know where exactly every note is going to be. Okay, so what I mean by technical prep, this is actually all over my Instagram. So I had to play with 4 mallets for these solos. Let's see if there's a snare drum. I'll just worry about it later. So that's one of the solos. The next one is. So those are two of my favorite ones. So, and I know them pretty well, but I don't take it for granted. I'm still going to go through and play them extremely slow after I do my technical prep, which is basically stuff like. And then the key is for me is to never take anything for granted, to go through every single step, because you know better to do everything to know you did it than to skip something and be like, oh, should I have done that at the end. And then after I do the technical prep, I literally will go. Like that. So just to make sure I know every single note. The slower you go, the harder it is because you're so used to a muscle memory. So let's see how slow I can go today. Okay, so the other thing I have to do is pick which sticks I'm going to play each excerpt with. So here is the audition bag. I have not chosen which sticks yet. This is still in Philadelphia mode. There was a lot, so it got really crowded. So I suspect that Kansas City will be a lot lighter. I won't need these. For instance, these are chime mallets. There was a chime excerpt in Philadelphia. So yeah, so I'm gonna go through the list and pick which mallets that I usually would like to use. Like this one is usually for Porgy and Bess. These I usually use for exotic birds. These I use for Harianos. This one I use for Schumann 3. Like after you do this for a while, you have ones that you know you always will use. But I like doing this every once in a while because one, it gets pretty, you know, crowded and mismanaged. And two, it's really cathartic and kind of relaxing for me to take everything out and repackage it. So I won't need these things. I won't need these probably. But yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. I'll probably take a picture of the finished product. One of the things that we as percussionists need to also be aware of is that the instruments that we will be playing on might be unfamiliar in some way. So I'm currently playing, that's a marimba 1 marimba. So I have mallets that I like for that specific instrument that also can be played with, you know, on a different instrument and sound pretty good. Um, I usually take 2 of everything just to be safe. So for the vibes, I usually have these 3. These 3 sets are usually what I would probably use. And then bass drum. You also don't know what the hall is going to sound like, so I have to account for different reverberations. How articulate am I going to play? So I have these for more articulate playing. I do have another set of more articulate sticks that I'm going to put in since I'll have space. But yeah. And then xylophone, same thing. Glockenspiel specifically is something that I always am worried about because there's a ton of different glocks. Depending on how wide the bar is, I might have to use a bigger mallet head than a smaller one. So I need to be prepared just in case you know, the different bar lengths are different. So yeah, this is kind of a nerdy thing that I have to do, but better to be prepared than not. Okay, so again, I gotta choose mallets for each excerpt. So I always, vibraphone specifically, I never want to stay with one mallet, so I always retry things to see if I like them. So one of the excerpts is like, so it has a nice sound here, but I also have to think about what it sounds like way out there. So this might be a little too muddy. Although I really like those mallets, but I have yet to use them in any contest. So these are kind of worn out. So they have a little bit more bite, but because they're worn out, they're not as reliable. So one is a little harder than the other. So probably not. The ones I think might work. I just bought these a while ago. Like they're articulate, but have a nice warm. So I think I'm going to use these because these are really, like they're articulate but not harsh. So that's the one I want to use. What I've used in the past are these. They're a little more crunchy because of the shaft. The shaft's thicker than these ones, which makes it a little more bouncy. So they rebound off of the bar a little bit more than these. So these have a little bit. Yeah, so this is a little longer than 2 minutes, but that's how I choose mallets. Other case in point, I wanted to try to use these for the next excerpt, which is a little more like it's a little more articulate and more busy. So these are, I would love these, and if they were just right here, it'd be perfect. But I need something slightly more articulate, which happens to be probably these. These are really articulate, so I have to be a little careful so I don't overplay. You get that nasty crunch. So, yeah, so these might be a little much. I'm gonna let's see. It's like slightly softer, not by much, but yeah, might use these. We'll see. Who knows? So this is what we're working with. I have 4 sets marimba mallets, a bunch of loud xylophone, soft xylophone. The ones in the front are my practice mallets. And then we have loud glockenspiel, soft glockenspiel, bass drum, snare drum, but I have the rest of the snare drum with me. And then vibraphone is also in there with the mallets. This took about an hour-ish. I haven't tested the bass drum mallets yet, but I'll probably do that tomorrow because I'm tired. And yeah, that's... Oh, the other thing is you have to either be borrowing or have your own mallets as well. And maybe, depending on how long this is, I'll see if I can maybe show you how much or how little you can spend on doing an audition like this of this size. This one will probably be pretty cheap to put together, all things considered, but yeah, maybe I'll do that. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to make the book yet, but this is just an example of what uh, an orchestral audition book looks like. So there's Philly. That was. I'm not going to take this one, but yeah, you have the excerpt list. It's very long. There's a lot. So you see what I mean? All right, and then they give you all the music. At least this orchestra gave you all the music you're supposed to play, so you didn't have to go search for a bunch of stuff. So it's fairly thick. I counted there are 127 excerpts in this particular audition. Kansas will be a lot shorter, obviously.